Okay, imagine going from running 5K in 45 minutes to running 5K in 30 minutes, or running 5K in 27 minutes to running 5K in 19 minutes. That's exactly what we've seen at the All In Run Club. It's incredible, right? But here's the problem. Most runners hit those numbers and think they've reached their potential, and that's where they're completely wrong. I'm Grantham. I ran for my country at both the marathon and the ultra marathon, but with the 5K, it took me longer to go from not being able to run 400 meters to being able to run 5K in 25 minutes. And then in a very quick time, I was able to transition that into a 16-minute 35K. And I did that because of an appreciation of everything that I'm about to tell you in this video. I'm going to break down exactly why this initial progress isn't anywhere near your peak, and why thinking you've maxed out after just a few months is the biggest mistake holding runners back. In the first 6 months, whatever you do is going to move you forward as long as you stay out of trouble, meaning injury or illness. Even if you do the wrong things, but you do them consistently, you're going to move forward. And what I mean by that is you can go out and run easy every single run. Probably the best thing to do. You could add some structure in there, faster running. All your runs could be in the wrong zone. They could be in the gray zone and too fast. It would still move you forward. You're in that initial phase where whatever you do is going to move you forward because you haven't ran before, or you haven't ran for a long time. To then think after 6 months that you've reached your potential is absolutely crazy. Those initial months are about you getting to baseline fitness. And you get into a point where, I know what it feels like to run 5 kilometers without stopping. I know what it feels like to maybe run further and insert a long run. Installing the habit in that initial 6 months is the most powerful thing you can do. And if you think about it, and especially if you played sport or if you ran at school, this is where you should at least already be. This is your absolute baseline. 6 months of going from doing nothing or very little to structured training should bring you up to a baseline. Nowhere near your potential, just a starting point. You're starting to see diminishing returns, and that's when the real work begins. After the quick wins and all the low-hanging fruit, the progress is going to slow down, and that's completely normal. It's not like you've hit your limit, it's just that the low-hanging fruit is gone, and now it's time for that work ethic really to kick in, because that truly is what defines you. And that is what is going to lead you in the direction of your potential. Structured training, smarter recovery, respect for that recovery, and consistency. A lot of the time with runners, it's because they've got to a point where they know how to push, and that feels hard. And so they don't think there is another level to come, when in actual fact, they're just scratching the surface. Imagine if you were about to learn a language, and for 6 months, you pick up all the low-hanging fruit. You know how to put words together, you know what words mean, you know how to put simple sentences together. But can you have a conversation? No. It's exactly like learning to play the piano. Unless you're Beethoven, you're going to be able to learn what the keys mean and what simple chords are. But are you going to be able to put together a composition? Absolutely not in 6 months. And the great thing about this, and this is what I love about life and about running, is this is when most people leave the game. This is when they stop learning to play the piano because it feels too hard. They stop learning the language because it feels too tough. Exactly the same with running. I feel like I've maxed out on my 5K. And so what typically happens, they want to find success somewhere else. So they'll go up in distance and jump up too quickly, and then run for their potential a very mediocre 10K or half marathon, instead of focusing on working smarter and training in a more methodical way. This plateau you're feeling is discouraging because the progress isn't as dramatic as it previously was. But this is where the magic happens. Most runners quit when it gets tough, not because they've maxed out their potential, but because they've never trained beyond those easy gains. And so they don't deserve it. They don't deserve to move forward. And this is when your work ethic kicks in. Reaching towards your potential in running is years and not months. For me, I got initial success, and that feels like, oh, I can run 5K without stopping. And then I want to get faster at that, and that's some more success. And it's that low-hanging fruit, and it makes you feel great. But when I look back on it, it took me 3 to 5 years to figure out how to train properly, to start working with the right people who really knew what they were doing, to add a lot more method in my madness, a lot more method in my training, so that I began to do the right sessions well. And then I had big breakthroughs 6 or 7 years after I initially started running. And this is why I always talk about it's the appreciation for the consistency and the discipline and the delayed gratification that are your biggest superpowers in running. Anybody can have a good session or a good week or a good training schedule. It's really easy to do that. And if you look at it in football terms, a lot of footballers can be good for 1 or 2 years. But what is really impressive is those guys at 15, 20-year careers that are still wanting to win with the same level of hunger, and they're training harder than ever because they've got that older body. So if you're at 6 months and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you're feeling disheartened, congratulations. You've got to your starting point, you've got to your baseline. And from here, it's still upwards progress. It's just harder to make those gains. What I'd suggest is, what it took me way too long to do, is work with somebody who really knows what they're doing in order to move you forward. And if you think you've got a lot of untapped potential and that you're capable of way faster times, then get in contact by booking a call in the description.